We had a client that we worked with, and she was really struggling with profitability. She kept raising tuition. She actually did 3 tuition increases within a 15-month cycle, and she still could not catch up. So I helped her work with our 6 money leaks in schools, and she only used 3 of the 6 money leaks and cut her expenses by 50%. 50. She did not fire anyone, she did not slash any of her programs, and she did not work more hours. Again, the 6 money leaks are not hacks or spreadsheets. These are patterns. They are small decisions that feel so normal that your school does, but they quietly drain your school's profit. So if you've ever wondered why you're working so hard, but still not seeing the return, this is your first step to clarity. Click the link in the show notes and find out what it's actually costing you.
Welcome to the Schools of Excellence podcast, where we transform everyday leadership struggles into powerful legacies that impact generations. I'm your host, Khani Wilshansky, a 20-year veteran of school leadership who has helped hundreds of school leaders achieve what many thought was impossible through our signature programs, School Leadership HQ, and Enrollment Engine. With our battle-tested frameworks and blueprints, leaders have achieved 90% parent retention, 50% less staff turnover, 15% improved profit margins, and increased enrollment by 25%. My mission is simple: to revolutionize school leadership by elevating the skills, the habits, and mindset of passionate leaders ready to create lasting change. Join me as we build your legacy of excellence, one transformative conversation at a time. Hello there, and welcome back to the Schools of Excellence podcast. Today, we are doing the final episode in our 5-gear series. And today we are talking about strategic growth. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been uncovering the 5 gears: enrollment, staff culture, financial health, parent engagement. And today we're going to go over strategic growth. And strategic growth is not about being ready for everything. It's about being ready for the right thing. And today's episode is different from our previous gear discussions because strategic growth is not just about building other systems or how to optimize other systems. It's about really understanding when and how to expand your impact. So I want to start off with a story and talk about an owner, call her Rachel. And she was constantly being asked by the board to grow, open new locations, add more programs, expand your services. And she felt really overwhelmed because while there were certain parts of the school that were running really smoothly, there were other parts that needed a lot of work. And so when we started to work together, we discovered something that was really fascinating. And she just felt so liberated by it that she didn't need to say yes or no to growth. It wasn't a binary response. She needed to understand which type of growth aligned with her school's current capacity and capabilities. And so I want to really here break down the 4 different paths of strategic growth. And I'm going to explain it deeply and really also help you understand how to break free from so many of the platitudes that people hear when it comes to growth. So the first path in strategic growth is internal growth. And internal growth is about strengthening what you already have. It's about creating leadership pipelines. It's about enhancing your current programs. It's about building specialized expertise. And so one of the schools that we work with chose the path of internal growth, and they transformed their teacher assistant role into a full career pathway, which helped them lead to over 85% retention of their teaching team. This is one example of what it means to have proper internal growth. So the second path is what I call external growth. And this is your traditional market expansion, right? It includes opening up new locations, expanding to new neighborhoods, creating pop-up programs. But what's really fascinating about external growth is that we are working with a school that was considering opening up a second location. And when she did the growth matrix, which is helping you understand which of the 4 paths is right for you, the matrix actually showed that they weren't ready for external growth yet, but they were we're actually perfect positioned for the third path, which is called vertical growth. And vertical growth is about increasing your depth of impact. So this is about adding advanced programs, extending your services like before and after care, expanding age groups. And so what this owner ended up doing is she ended up adding a robust summer program instead of adding a new location. And their revenue grew by 40% with so much less risk. Now, that doesn't mean she's never going to open up another location. It just meant in that season, external growth wasn't the right path. The vertical growth and adding a robust summer program is what gave them the additional cash to actually be far better suited to go into a second location with a little bit risk mitigation. So that's the third path, is vertical growth. The final path of strategic growth is horizontal growth. And this is about broadening your impact through new revenue streams. It might be creating new training programs, developing new educational materials, taking things that you've done and actually writing curriculum books, offering complementary services. And the thing that you really need to understand is these are not random options. These are strategic pathways that really require different types of readiness. And that's what I'm going to dive deeper in today's episode, because again, you don't just randomly pick like, oh, I want to do this path for growth, or I want to do this path for growth. Like, that is why I create the diagnostics. So we have the 5 gears diagnostics, which helps you understand which of the 5 gears you need to improve and which one needs to be in maintenance mode. Within strategic growth, we also have the growth matrix, which helps you diagnose and understand, okay, which pathway is the right pathway for you. Is it vertical? Is it external? Is it internal? Is it horizontal? You don't just get to randomly pick. I mean, you could, but if you randomly pick, you're probably not going to pick the thing that most aligns with your current resource and operational capacity, which is where schools break. So many times leaders say things like, I can't invest in a training program right now. We're opening up a third location. I can't. And I'm like, this is the time to do it. Like, now is the time to invest in the right leadership development and programming and support so that you can actually do what it is that you're trying to do. So let's talk about, how do you determine which growth path is right for your school? And I want to really be clear about something, really, really clear. So really listen here. Choosing the wrong path is not just ineffective. It can actually destabilize every single thing that you've built. I'm going to say that again. Choosing the wrong path of the 4 paths, choosing the wrong one is not just ineffective. It will destabilize everything that you've built. So how do you assess your growth readiness, right? And this is what we do on Profit and Growth Call. And you could, click the link in the show notes, schoolsofexcellence.com/consult, and we can have a conversation, and I can help you work through our growth matrix so you could see which path is the right path for you when it comes to strategic growth. But one of the things that we do is we look at your operational foundation. Okay, that's one of the areas in the diagnostic that we're looking at. So I want to talk about Jenny. She is an owner that we worked with, and Jenny's school was like perfect for external growth. Okay, she had full enrollment. She had very strong parent satisfaction, and she had very solid financials. However, when we dug into diagnostic, which is why I always have the day to choose, we discovered something that was so critical. Her entire operations really depended on her being there every single day. Every single day. So things work, but they depend on specific people. And we need to create systematic freedom within operations, right? It's the operational foundation. So it's not just about, oh, we need systems or we need, no. You need cross-trained teams that can cover for each other. That's the coverage matrix, right? And you need protected time for strategic planning. And that was the second piece that we assess when I look at operations, is resource capacity. Now, resource capacity is typically, people say things like, well, I have money in the bank. I'm like, that is the easiest thing to get, is money in the bank. Having healthy cash reserve is amazing. And that's where typically people get really excited about expanding. But I'm mapping other resources, because what I looked at when we did her resource capacity assessment was 100% of their staff's capacity was about maintaining their current programs. No one had buffer for unexpected challenges, for growth, for new projects. And so all of the light was pointing towards internal growth first. She had to strengthen the foundation and create resource capacity before she could go expand to another location. You wouldn't build a second story of a house with a shaky foundation. And so for her, the first growth path was internal growth before she went to the external growth. She needed to develop that capacity because this isn't just about bad luck or poor time management, right? It's a fundamental misunderstanding of what strategic growth actually requires. What does it actually require? See, I go to events and I speak on stages and I connect with leaders all the time. And people say things like, Khani, I really want to grow my school. I really need to work on strategic planning. And these are really nice statements, but they're platitudes. They lack clarity and specificity needed to translate into actual progress, right? Because let me share some real data with you, okay? In our diagnostic, over 300 school leaders have already taken this diagnostic. And we have found that 78% had regular time blocked for strategic work. But when I get on calls and go deeper with them, only 16% of owners can clearly articulate what specific activity they need to be doing during their strategic work time, doing their big picture work time. So 78% say, oh yeah, I do big picture time. I do strategic work. But then when I have conversations in our profit and growth call, only 16% can actually say, this is what I actually do. So the gap between intention and clear action is where strategic growth goes to die. The gap between intention and clear action is where strategic growth goes to die. So think about it this way. If I told you, go into your car, fasten your seatbelt, and I want you to drive somewhere important. Now, what would be going through your mind is like, okay, where exactly am I going? What route am I taking? How will I know when I got there? And this is exactly your approach to strategic growth. You block out time on your calendar to do strategic growth. And that's like for the best directors. Most leaders don't even block out time. They're just like, one day there's not going to be any call outs and there's not going to be any problems. There's not going to be any crises and there's not going to be any issues. And I'm going to get over this hump. And then Khani, I'm going to do strategic growth. And I'm like, I love you so much. Have fun with that strategy. And then some people put time in their calendar, but it's so vague and it doesn't have a clear destination or a roadmap. So leaders who are successfully implementing strategic growth, it's not that they have more discipline or fewer emergencies, because they don't, okay? They actually have a crystallized, very, very specific thing in their calendar of what strategic growth means for their school, their market, and their team. So I'll talk about Alana. She was a leader that I worked with in the Midwest. And every Monday morning, she spent 2 hours on strategic growth. But here's the difference. Alana did not just write strategic growth inside of her calendar, because I don't let my clients do that. She wrote in the calendar, in that 2-hour block, it said, develop assistant director leadership skills. And then in the sub part of it, it said, create stretch assignments for the enrollment process. This specificity means that when emergencies came up, because they do, because Alana doesn't work in a perfectly curated school, they have real kids who have real problems and teachers and families and licensing. Okay, you're not a special snowflake. Alana's school are the same thing. And so when emergencies arose, she can make a conscious choice about whether she was going to abandon the work of developing her assistant director's leadership skills or find another solution to the fire that came to her. Because the cycle of getting pulled back into operations is always going to happen. And so breaking it requires more than just a good intention or better time blocking. It requires clarity about what strategic growth actually means. So going back to Alana, where she wrote, develop assistant director leadership skills, she and I sat together and we worked through the 4 pillars of administrative excellence. And that's a diagnostic that's inside our leadership HQ. And we worked through that diagnostic and assessed, okay, these are the 2 leadership gaps with this particular assistant director. And so here is how you're going to support her her skill development in this area. One of the ways you're going to do that is you're going to create stretch assignments for her, because right now she's struggling to be part of the enrollment process. And the enrollment gear is a gear that you need to be working on. So we need to help your assistant director learn how to be part of the enrollment process. Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to create something that I call stretch assignments. We're going to stretch her current capacity. We're going to stretch her to her growth edge. What exactly is going to be that stretch assignment? Let's get creative together, right? And so she came up with a couple of ideas. And those were the things in her calendar that she actually executed on. This is wildly different from writing big picture thinking or strategic growth or whatever you write, to develop assistant director's leadership skill and create stretch assignments for the enrollment process. That is something I can almost guarantee you're not currently doing. And so this is why the diagnostic, schoolsofexcellence.com/5gears, that diagnostic, our profit and growth call, if you want to get on a call with myself or a member of our team, the diagnostic looks at specific indicators. Can your operations run without specific people? Do you have resource buffers beyond daily needs? Is your core program excellent and replicable? Does your team embrace innovation and change? Are there clear market opportunities? These are just some of them. These are not nice to have. They are prerequisites for strategic growth. Without these, you are always going to get pulled back into operations, no matter how disciplined or how focused or how motivated you are. So before you block off your next strategic growth time, I want you to ask yourself, what aspect of growth am I working on? What tangible outcome do I want from this time? How will I know if I use this time effectively? And if you want help answering these questions, I want you to go to schoolsofexcellence.com/consult so that we can have a conversation on our profit and growth call. So you're not dealing with platitudes anymore, but you're actually going to create a pathway for real growth, one that can truly withstand the inevitable pull of daily operations. So let's talk about how to break the cycle by getting specific into the 4 types of strategic growth that is available to you. So internal growth, it's about adding those leadership pipelines, creating growth tracks, creating specific pathways for teachers to develop expertise and really move into leadership roles. One of the things that I always tell our leaders is like a signal of a great director is how many of her teachers are ready for promotion? How many of her teachers are ready to move up? That means that she's developed those teachers, right? They are ready to move into the next stage. External growth, right? Instead of immediately opening up another location, start some pop-up programs in a target neighborhood, test the market, build relationships, refine the system before making major investments. And one of the things that we did in the internal growth is I was working with an owner who had an assistant director and a curriculum specialist and all of these things. And she really she had a head of school as well. And the head of school had left, and she right away wanted to rehire a head of school. And I said, no. You are in the internal growth process right now. Before you go and just replace that role, I want you to get back into the day-to-day. And I want you to actually realize what is actually needed here. What is breaking? How much time actually needs to be dedicated to a head of school? And what would their job description look like even? And she's like, but I really don't want to get back in the day. And I said, here's the little secret, my love. You're already back in the day-to-day. Because with this person leaving, you are answering so many issues and challenges and all of these things. You're already back in it. So let's get a little sober conversation of reality. You are back in the day-to-day. So before you go and hemorrhage your bank account and go hire a new head of school, let's spend a little bit of disciplined time together and really figure out what does the role actually have to do aligned with where you're heading as an owner? There is an obsession in this industry to get out of the day-to-day, to not be as involved, to be able to prepare your school for exit, an obsession. And here's the thing. I am all for helping leaders move out of the day-to-day and move out of operations and really be in the strategic growth area. And I believe really strongly in it. And we help our clients do it. So many leaders obsess over it to a point that they're not ready to understand the journey to get there. To get to a place of being out of the day-to-day, you have to go into it first. You actually have to be involved in it and see what's going on and see what's breaking and understand the systems that have to be put in place. And you have to elevate your mindset and your consciousness of what it takes to truly be a CEO and a leader. And that's why I'm having these conversations. That's why I developed Schools of Excellence. That's why I developed the IP and all of our processes and frameworks and diagnostics, is because I'm so tired of people getting so frustrated about not understanding what is the next step. You have to work from data points and not from what your accountant reads in your P&L on QuickBooks. That is not a data point that is going to tell you if your market is ready for strategic growth or internal growth or external growth. Your accountant cannot answer that question, nor can any randomized person at a roundtable at a childcare conference answer that question for you. You have to look at the data. You have to be asking the right questions. And that's Schools of Excellence superpower. It's understanding the right questions to ask so that you know the next step in your journey. So let's talk about another critical aspect of strategic growth, which is maintaining momentum. Because growth cannot come at the expense of what is already working. Growth cannot come at the expense of what is already working. So I'm going to tell you about Lisa. She's another owner that we worked with. And she was implementing an incredible internal growth plan. She was creating leadership pathways. She was enhancing programs. And 3 months in, she noticed that her parents' satisfaction scores started dropping. Why? Because all of her energy was going to these new initiatives and her basic systems were starting to slip because she wasn't doing the maintenance in the parent engagement gear. And this is why I created the maintenance map. When you are heading into strategic growth and looking at all these things, we have to document exactly what needs to happen to keep your current programs running smoothly. And after we create this maintenance map, we create momentum keepers, specific team members that are responsible for maintaining quality in existing programs while other team members are focused on growth. What is a momentum keeper? A team member who specifically is assigned for maintaining quality in this program, in this classroom, in this gear, or whatever it is, while others are working on the growth. You have to understand that maintenance is not stagnation. Maintenance is not stagnation. It is protecting what you've built while you build something new. I talk about this all the time. You are always building two businesses, the one you have now and the one you're going to have in 6 months from now. And so you have to understand that maintenance is not stagnation. It is protecting what you have built. So you need to understand how to integrate it, creating protection plans for existing systems, assigning clear ownership for growth and maintenance, having regular momentum checks so that nothing is slipping. So when you hear things like, we know we need better systems to grow, but we can't invest in building them right now. Trying to grow without operational readiness is not saving money. It is setting yourself up for very expensive failures. And that is why you have to invest in operational readiness. You need to invest in it. So I was working with a director, we'll call her Chris, and she was determined on opening up her 4th location. Her current school was really profitable, her 2 other schools, but they were completely dependent on her in almost every way. And she didn't even realize, she kind of normalized how dependent everything was on her. And I suggested that she needs to invest in building her enrollment systems, like the ecosystem of enrollment and staff culture in these 2 locations before she goes and opens the 4th. And she's like, we're going to figure everything out, after we open the location. We got to go head on. We got the bank. We got this, we got to go. I was like, okay, fine. Great conversation. Stay connected. I ain't running anywhere. 6 months later, she pings me in absolute crisis. I am working 90 hours a week, honey. I'm trying to run everything. I lost 2 key staff members because no one knew how to train the new teachers. Parent complaints are up the wazoo because quality is inconsistent. I've spent 3 times more money fixing problems than it would have cost me to just join Leadership HQ and build proper systems in the first place. How do I join? Don't be this person. Join and understand that investing in operational readiness is not a nice to have. It is a critical investment in growth. A critical investment in growth. because operational readiness isn't a cost, it's a protection. It's an insurance policy on everything that you've built. On everything that you've built. The foundation costs money, but trying to build it without it costs far more in the long run. So how do we put everything together here? Whether you're considering internal growth, external growth, vertical growth, horizontal, doesn't matter. The key is starting with readiness, because strategic growth isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right thing at the right time in the right order. The right thing at the right time in the right order. And so if you want the 5 gears diagnostic, so you could take the strategic growth diagnostic, go to schoolsofexcellence.com/5gears. It will help you identify exactly which growth path aligns with your current capabilities. And I also want to invite you to a profit and growth call so we can have a conversation about School Leadership HQ. This is where we work hands-on with schools, the owner, the director, the curriculum, everyone joins. And we are implementing growth pathways. Our schools are making confident decisions about their next steps instead of just reacting to opportunities. And so I want to take a moment here as we close out this 6-part series where we're discussing the 5 gears. I really hope that whoever's been on the journey from the beginning and listened to every single episode on the 5 gears, first of all, thank you for your time and attention. And I want to invite you to pay it forward. If you have a school owner or director or friend, whether that's in your local director network or you're part of an association, or you have a friend who wants to open up a childcare center, send them this series. Send them the first episode, the second episode, whatever it is, and invite people into a world of possibility. Invite people into a world of better questions, of better thinking, of higher impact thinking, where they're not just reacting and looking for the next gimmick or the next hack or the next quick snackable, but they are looking for true sustainable growth to build their school of excellence. Thank you so much for joining me.
If your accountant has ever told you to cut back on professional development or slash your teacher appreciation budget or your staff development budget just so you could stay afloat, or has told you, hey, you probably can't go invest in that program, please listen. The problem is not that you're spending too much money on your people or yourself or your investment or your support system. It's that your school has invisible money leaks that are draining your profit, leaks that no spreadsheet will ever catch or accountant. So I created the 6 money leaks of schools that show you the 6 core areas that schools lose money every single month without realizing it. If you close even one of them, your profits will start to soar without sacrificing your team. Go get it now and stop blaming the things that are actually building your school.